As part of the History Heard project. The content of this interview may be used for historical research. However, no part of this video itself may be reproduced without the express written permission of an authorized representative of History Heard. Today is August 2nd, 2008 at 3:30. This is an interview with Ray Gonzalez in Tampa, Florida. He was born on May 2nd, 1930 in Tampa, Florida. So, what was it like going to the University of Florida in 1947?
What was it like? Well, it was considerably different than going to the University of Florida in 2007 or 2008. Back in 47, for one thing, it was a little unusual to go from high school to college back then. There wasn't an awful lot of people that went on to school. Young boys were going into the service, girls were going to girls' schools or secretarial school or positions, but so it was, you were in the minority if you were going to college then. But what made it a little different at Florida was that the state of Florida had two big state schools. One was in Tallahassee and one was in Gainesville. The one in Tallahassee was known as Florida State College for Women, which was all girl students. The University of Florida at Gainesville was all male students. And that had been that way since 1845. And so the big thing was in 47, September 47, it turned co-ed. Both schools.
Yeah.
Florida State College for Women became FSU, and they had a few male students there. And Florida had, out of 8,000, about 8,000 enrollment, there was 110 girls.
Yeah.
And which were, I think they were all in the cheerleading squad at that time. But you know, needless to say, you might say it was still all boys because you never saw the 111 girls around campus. And it was different. They still employed the rules at Florida that they had at Florida State College for Women at Tallahassee. And so the 111 or 110 students at Florida, female students, had all these rules imposed on them as if they were in a girls' school. For instance, they could not be seen on campus in any way if they were going to or from phys ed class or whatever in shorts. And of course shorts then were like to the knees anyway, but shorts was not ladylike. They had to have a full-length raincoat on over their shorts. They could not be seen. That was a terrible violation if they were seen that way. And there were a lot of rules that way that really applied to a girls' school, but that's the only rules that they had from before. And I venture to say that at Florida, Tallahassee, FSU, they were pretty strict, and I guess the boys were, in fact I know the boys were off at what they called West Campus, which was like 7 miles from the campus, and they were in the male dorms. Their dorms was an old air base that was near Tallahassee.
Cool.
So at Florida, the girls just lived off campus because there were no girl dorms at that, you know, women's dorms. So it was a little different in the way that of course the boys at Florida couldn't wait for Friday afternoon to come to hitch a ride to Tallahassee where the girls were, you know, and so it was a little different as far as the girl and
so when
the
you
boys.
when you hitched a ride to Tallahassee, what happened then? You went to Tallahassee. And
Oh
then what?
yeah, well then you ran across into the really strict rules and which you had to abide by, and they were still strictly, because at Tallahassee the girls had the same rules. They did not change the rules from the time they were Florida State College for Women. So all the girls were in dorms, of course, and each dorm had a house mother, and if you had a date with the girl, if it was in the evening, you had to have a coat and tie, and you had to present yourself at the house mother's little office and sign the book, who you were, where you were from, who you were coming to see, and the house mother would come out and interview you, make sure you weren't, you know, hiding a hip flask or something like that, you know, and so they were very very strict. And to the point where sometimes it could be a little embarrassing, like when I was being interviewed and I dropped my chewing gum on her desk, you know. And, you know, that was a terrible thing, you know, and it was a really, really, really embarrassing thing, which today it probably wouldn't be that big a thing. But anyway, it was back then. It was a big, big thing. And it was, you know, that was the difficult part. After that, then we got more girls, and by the time I was leaving, it became almost a normal college. They had sororities, and the girls had built their dorms then, and they had dorms, and in fact, and I don't know if you want me to say this or not, but the first national, which became then a national fad, panty raids started at the University of Florida when the guys would invade the dorms, and that was a big thing if you could, you know, invade the dorms. But of course, after a while, you didn't have to invade them. The girls would throw them out the window at you for you, you know. So anyway, so that was college.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much.